The word feedback might make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Many people think of feedback as a threat. Even positive feedback can seem like an attack. Our egos and self-esteem tell us to shut down and drown it out. But feedback is a necessary part of professional growth and development. With a positive mindset, you can stay calm, take feedback on board, and use it to improve your performance and further your career. In this course, you'll learn how receiving feedback differs from receiving simple praise or criticism, and how listening to genuinely constructive feedback with a positive mindset can influence your reactions and responses. You will also learn how applying feedback can jumpstart your professional growth and self-development. A positive feedback culture can transform your workplace. When you're comfortable asking for and receiving feedback, it strengthens your performance and that of your team, and by extension, your entire organization. But giving and receiving feedback can be daunting. For many, feedback is a negative experience that only happens during performance reviews or when things go wrong. It's like getting a wisdom tooth pulled. You know it's ultimately good for you, but it still feels like something to dread and avoid. Though feedback might involve constructive criticism, criticism is not its sole purpose. Feedback is also a chance to celebrate achievements, solve challenges, and openly discuss your goals. To be valuable, feedback should be delivered effectively and received with a positive mindset. To help with that, bear in mind some of the positive effects of receiving feedback. Effective, balanced feedback explores what people are doing right as well as what they could be doing better. To achieve this balance, both positive and negative feedback are necessary. Think of positive feedback as a form of praise. It provides the benefit of acknowledging and reinforcing your existing strengths. By expressing appreciation of a job well done, positive feedback motivates and inspires you to do your job even better and with greater confidence. When you adopt a positive mindset, constructive feedback results in a positive outcome. That's because constructive feedback is vastly different from criticism. Feedback is not a personal attack. It's a supportive way to deal with underperformance. Ideally, constructive feedback is delivered using positive language. Instead of focusing on what you failed to do or did wrong, constructive feedback uses phrases like, "It would have been better if you'd tried this approach," or asks, "How do you think you could have improved this outcome?" When you recognize how it was intended, it gives you something concrete to think about and use as you move forward. Another benefit of effective feedback is that it helps realign your job goals with specific business outcomes. If you get feedback that's geared toward helping you improve your sales figures, for example, it becomes a positive opportunity to refocus your performance. Constructive feedback emphasizes future goals. Instead of, "Your sales figures were terrible in the last quarter," constructive feedback asks how you can help improve your sales figures next quarter. Constructive feedback can also give you a sense of purpose. It can help you feel like part of a team, like your contribution to the organization is important, valued, and recognized. These feelings are all crucial to a sense of well-being in the workplace. And by aligning your work behaviors with the organization's goals, it reinforces the idea that your efforts matter. When delivered consistently, constructive feedback is beneficial because it helps you detect and remedy performance errors. Honestly assessing your strengths and where you need improvement empowers you to realize your full potential. Feedback tells you how well you're doing and what you need to do to advance your career. It acknowledges past mistakes, but, crucially, it also helps you avoid repeating them in the future. Constructive feedback helps you get better at your job. A culture of open communication makes it easier to stay motivated and engaged, and constructive feedback is one of the secrets behind a healthy, high-performance workforce. It improves efficiency by increasing the flow of honest, accurate, and actionable performance information. In a positive feedback culture, honesty flows in all directions, from peer to peer, supervisor to employee, and employee to supervisor. Too few managers and colleagues find time to express thanks for a job well done and mistakenly use feedback only as a platform for criticism. But when constructive feedback is framed to reinforce existing strengths, reach a specific business goal, and facilitate learning and growth, it becomes a gift for both you and your organization. Receiving feedback isn't always a comfortable experience. Sometimes you're told things that highlight a performance shortfall or something about your personality that others find challenging. Suppose you have a colleague who uses jokes in an attempt to liven up meetings. You tell him privately that these jokes are often in poor taste and make him look bad. He considers himself rather funny, gets defensive, and refuses to accept your feedback. He abruptly ends the conversation and returns to work. It's a very common reaction to resist feedback. You may well resist it yourself. Many people do. Luckily, there are some useful approaches you can employ for overcoming this resistance. The first of these is to fight your tendency to avoid accepting feedback and instead work to acknowledge feedback as a valuable personal investment. Many people resist feedback due to a fear of being considered weak or passive, or because other tasks seem more important. But openly accepting feedback is a highly productive activity. It creates an opportunity for personal growth, improved career performance, and a greater sense of purpose in the workplace. This is especially true when the person giving you feedback also openly accepts your thoughts on it. When both parties earnestly accept each other's feedback, it leads to more impactful feedback. You feel psychologically safer and more willing to reflect on feedback in a non-defensive manner. For the person giving the feedback, acceptance allows them to develop a deeper understanding of your point of view, which in turn leads to more constructive feedback. While acceptance is a crucial part of the feedback process, other barriers remain. For example, many people fear change. And while change may be necessary and inevitable, fear of change can simply override the feedback message. To prevent that, you should acknowledge a fear of change. When you do that, you can mitigate its effects. Having identified the emotion and your response to it, you can begin to move on and engage with the feedback itself. An effective approach for overcoming the fear of required change stemming from received feedback is to break the feedback down into a series of steps. By approaching change as an incremental process, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed by it. Taking small steps toward change and achieving small wins along the way increases your chance of positively engaging with feedback and putting it to work. That's one way of addressing the changes that may come out of feedback, but there are others too. Set realistic timeframes for each of the changes required and use incentives to motivate yourself to make the changes. In the same way that a salary increase can incentivize job performance, rewarding yourself for completing each step toward change will help you persevere. A regular routine and reward system can rewire the brain into creating new habits and seeing change as a positive outcome. For many people, the natural reaction to criticism is to perceive it as a threat. It then triggers an emotional fight or flight response. When feedback is perceived as judgmental, your defenses are raised, your stress level increases, and the feedback message is negated. You just want it to stop and go away. The proper approach, then, is to keep these reactions in check and strive to control your defensive reactions by reframing and reconstructing the feedback. Not how. Listen closely and allow the person giving the feedback to share without interruption. Don't worry about how the feedback is worded and focus instead on understanding what it's telling you. Then reframe and reconstruct it in your own words, seeing how you can use it to benefit your personal growth. Turn it into an opportunity. Whether the feedback you receive is constructive, corrective, or critical, it's natural to balk sometimes. But developing a positive response to feedback changes your focus so you can see its value and reap its benefits.